Sleep is so important. Like, this is gonna single-handedly make you more money, make you more healthy, make you more happy, make your relationships better, increase your lifespan, reduce your sickness. Like, sleep is so underrated. I recently spent a lot of time to learn about sleep. Went through a book called Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, and it was mind awakening. I was like, wow, sleep is much more important than you think. And I went ahead and spent hours and hours to put together this PowerPoint that's based on his book, where I went ahead and took out all the golden nuggets I've learned from the book. And it's very important you guys to watch through this video, because we're going to talk about how sleep can increase your performance, why it can actually increase your productivity, help you memorize things more easily. And there's just so many important facts that I didn't know that sleep could offer, and you definitely want to watch to the very end, because this is going to save you so much time and effort, because you spend 1/3 of your day sleeping. Don't you want to know the importance of that sleep, how to optimize that sleep, and how to actually use it to help you with things from memory, learning new things, being more productive? So that's why you want to spend 5 to 10 minutes of your day watching today's video. Before we get to today's video, let's start by announcing last video's winners for $1,000 worth of courses, a consulting course with me. The winner's here. If you guys want to win, all you have to do is drop a comment below, follow me on Instagram, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and I'll be picking the best comment every single video. Other than that, let's jump right into today's video, because it's going to be a long one. Everything you need to know about sleep. So let's start with what REM sleep is. Everyone talks about REM sleep. REM sleep is sort of what makes you smart, and we're going to go more in depth into that for sure. But we'll just start with that. REM sleep is very important. It helps you sort of learn, grow. It's very good for problem solving. So for example, you have A, B, C, D, E, F. So if you think of B, you think of A and C. REM sleep would help you with distant associated leaps. So REM sleep will somehow link B to E. That's sort of what REM sleep does, and that's sort of what's known for. And we're going to definitely go more in depth on REM sleep, but that's sort of a basic outline of REM sleep. And then how it works is every hour you roughly get 1 to 2 hour REM sleep. And that's sort of when you're dreaming. REM sleep is known for the dream state sleep. Next is non-REM sleep, also called as deep sleep. This is sort of where you're in that regenerative state, and this is sort of what recovers most of your muscles. It's great for learning and memory. Non-REM sleep or deep sleep is used for cementing new memories and facts. It's usually activated by the mid-frontal part of your brain, and deep sleep has long wavelengths that transfer memory packets from your hippocampus to the cortex. I'm going to explain a bit more about that later on. Basically, your hippocampus is your temporary short-term memory storage, and your cortex is long-term memory storage. So when you learn new things, for example, you're learning something now, it's stored into the hippocampus, and when you go ahead and sleep during deep sleep, that memory is then transferred to the cortex, where you have long-term memory. Here's some tips to improve your non-REM sleep. There's such things as electric voltage pulses that sort of pulse rhythmic time with slow non-REM waves that can improve your non-REM sleep, thus improve your memory. And how they do this is through auditory chimes, or they sort of put, electric voltages through your brain, and auditory chimes at night can increase the power of slow non-REM waves, increasing your memory for the next morning by 40%. So that's pretty crazy. But don't try this at home, because people have definitely been burnt by the voltages, had blindness. Sometimes the wavelengths you create through these strategies don't sync with your brain waves, causing non-REM sleep disruptions. So you definitely don't want to do this at home. But these are a few things to go ahead and improve your REM sleep. I know we jumped straight into the deep end, but I wanted to get REM and non-REM out of the way, just so you know. So quick recap: REM is sort of like when you're dreaming, great for like problem solving, emotional, mental sort of recovery. Non-REM sleep, great for learning, cementing new knowledge. It's sort of that deeper sleep, great for sort of repairing your muscles, etc. Sleep with your brain. So the younger you are, the more malleable your brain is. So example of how malleable it is if you cannot manage the current workload you have, your brain will grow and adapt to sort of manage it. For example, let's say you went from uni to working 9 to 5. You went from like doing part-time casual work, where it was just sort of pretty automated customer service, to like working in a corporate sort of scene from 9 to 5. And usually in the first 6 months, it's so hard. but your brain grows and adapts, and by like the first year, second year, you'll be good to go and you'll be set to work 9 to 5 for the rest of your life. So that's sort of an example of how malleable it is. 2. Deep sleep, which is non-REM sleep, may be the driving force for brain maturation. So that's why deep sleep is very important. And then sleep actually repairs the brain. Every time you sleep, it repairs the brain, it heals it, etc. And we'll go more in depth onto that. And there's another term that's also super important: adenosine sleep pressure. I think I pronounced that right. Basically, throughout the day, you have adenosine, and that is like a chemical that builds up throughout the day. And as it builds up, there's more and more pressure, and that's sort of what makes you feel tired. As this pressure builds up, you feel tired and you fall asleep. Now what happens is when you take afternoon naps, it drops the pressure, so by the time nighttime, maybe it hasn't filled up enough, and that's why you struggle to sleep at night. Don't worry, I'll be giving you guys a lot of tips for sleep as well. Next is dream. What happens during your dream? As you can see, I literally meant it when we're going over everything you need to know about sleep. We're literally going over everything. So dreaming. There's a correlation of MRI scans when you see things when you're awake and when you see things when you're asleep. So technically you can sort of do inception and sort of predict what someone's dreaming, because if someone sees a red apple in real life, the brain MRI has a certain sort of pattern, and when they see a red apple during their dream state, it replicates that same pattern. So what you see in your dream is the same as you see in real life. You can't really differentiate it. And what scientists sort of done is that dreams are not replays or recounts of recent weekly experiments. What they did was they tested, I think, like a bunch of people, have those people, follow those people, and recount what they did in the past 2 weeks. And 90% of the time, all these people's dreams had nothing to do with their recent experiences. So it's definitely not a replay or a recount of recent things. Next is sleep circadian rhythm. What is this? This is sort of basically your natural wake up and sleep time. So for example, when you're young, your circadian rhythm is like you sleep at 6 p.m. and you wake up at like 9 a.m. or something. You just sleep a lot. And when you become like a kid, your circadian rhythm is like you sleep at like 8 p.m. and you wake up at 8 a.m. And then when you become a teen, that sort of pushes to like you start sleeping at like 11, 12 a.m. and you wake up at like 10 a.m. or something. And why that happens is as you hit adolescence, you become more dependent and you start moving away from your parents, and sort of Mother Nature shifts your circadian rhythm to later sleeping hours. And then as you grow older, it gets pushed back, just like your parents, where they could just sort of sleep early with ease. Now, very important fact, you can't catch up on sleep. It's a myth. The brain can never recover all the sleep that's been deprived of, and you can't catch up or repay for this debt. Once you've sort of lost sleep, lost that sort of regenerative sort of ability for that night, you've lost that, and you can't catch up on that. You can't sleep more hours the next day to catch up for the previous day lack of sleep. That's a myth. Is there such thing as too much sleep? Just like how having too much water is bad, having too much food is bad, having too much oxygen is bad, having too much sleep is also bad. Having over 9 hours of sleep, that's probably when it's pretty bad. Now, talking about newborns. Neonates, which is sort of recently born babies, should be sleeping for majority of the day and night. Most neonatal care units have strong lighting and it remains on during the night. So these care units are, those sort of hospital rooms where they're just sort of rows and rows of cottages of just babies, and there are tons of them. Well, a lot of them have actually strong lighting that remain on throughout the night, and this actually affects the baby's sleep because it's hard to sleep with the light on, as you know. So you want to look for NICUs that implement dim lighting during the day and near blackout conditions at night, because this would lead to 50 to 60% improvement on weight gains of these babies and higher oxygen saturation levels, as well as these well-slept babies would be discharged from the hospitals 5 weeks earlier. So look for NICU units that implement dim lighting and blackout during the nights, because that would help your newborns sleep much better. The reason why babies sleep 12 plus hours a day is because they're forming a mass amount of neural links in the brain, and this place is called synaptogenesis. Let's see if I pronounce that correctly. Synaptogenesis. Pretty close. And this process is called synaptogenesis. And that's sort of like, imagine like the internet sort of online web, how like all the internet, there's all these links connecting to each other. That's sort of what the brain is forming as you sort of grow up for babies. 3 years old also requires 12 plus hours worth of sleep. 3-year-olds that get less than 10.5 hours of sleep have a 45% increased chance, editor you could change that, of obesity by the age of 7. That's pretty crazy. I didn't know that. And that's why this book shocked me so much. This process is very important. You cannot catch up on sleep. Like, if babies don't get enough REM sleep, their brains will be forever under-constructed. For example, let's say if you get 12 plus hours of sleep every single day, by age 3, you have a 100% constructed brain. Now, if you lose sleep just for one day, you cannot catch up on sleep by getting more sleep that next day. Your brain will now be forever 99% constructed. Talking about alcohol, it's been tested that alcoholic parents' babies get less REM sleep, and we'll be talking more about alcohol soon. And another tip is slow rocking. You know why there's sort of those beds that swing? Slow rockings of babies and adults actually will increase your REM sleep. Next is women who are working erratic hours are 80% more likely to suffer issues from subfertility, basically the inability to get pregnant. Because if you're working erratic hours, you do night shift, morning shift, night shift, it really affects your health and sort of hormones. Next is pregnant women who routinely have less than 8 hours of sleep have a significant increased chance, change that from change to chance, of miscarriage in the first trimester compared to those who consistently get 8 hours or more of sleep. So sleep is very important, especially when you're pregnant. So back to the topic of alcohol on babies and mothers. Pregnant mothers that drink alcohol, there's actually an instant effect on the unborn fetus, and this will affect the unborn fetus's REM sleep and breath rates, going from 381 breaths an hour to 4 breath rates an hour. Like, I don't know what these numbers are. I don't think it's like 4 actual breaths, but like there's some breathing rate where it just drops drastically. I need to double check that, but what I know for sure is that there's an instant effect on your fetus as you drink alcohol. And mothers that drink alcohol, the alcohol actually gets infused in the mother's sort of milk, breast milk, which their newborns then drink, and this suppresses the baby's REM sleep by 20 to 30%. So I didn't know this, like when mothers drink alcohol, it gets into their breast milk and babies drink that. So you're actually feeding your baby alcohol when you drink alcohol as a mother. Next, sleep and older people. So the reason why older people sort of have trouble sleeping at night is because they like to take afternoon naps. And as I said previously, when you have afternoon naps, this releases the buildup of adenosine sleep pressure, and as a result, they cannot sleep at night. Furthermore, older people have much earlier circadian rhythms. They fall asleep early, 8 to 9 p.m., and they wake up super early, 5 to 6 a.m. So obviously that's sort of not too good, because if you're an old person and you want to sleep at 11 p.m. with your kids because you have to stay up to them, you're automatically going to wake up at 5 to 6 a.m. just because of your circadian rhythm, and as a result you get less sleep. So the tip to go ahead and shift your circadian rhythm forward is to wear sunglasses in the morning to simulate nighttime. So when you wake up at 5 to 6 a.m., wear sunglasses. And then you want to go on afternoon walks to reduce the rise of melatonin. So when 8 p.m. comes, go on an afternoon walk, get some sunlight into your eyes, and that will reduce the rise in melatonin, which will get you very sleepy at that time. Another reason why older people get bad sleep is because they have a weak bladder. And when they have the weak bladder, this leads to broken sleep because they have to go ahead and go to the toilet throughout the night. This would lead to a higher chance to fall because now you're going in and out of your bed to your bathroom, and might give you vertigo and blood rush as you get in and out of your bed. As you grow old, you sleep less, you get broken sleep, and when you get broken sleep due to weak bladder, you actually increase your chance of falling and breaking something because you're going in and out of your bed, and it's just a recipe for disaster. So a tip for you to use is you can actually use melatonin, because melatonin will actually increase the sleep quality for older people. It's not good for younger people to take melatonin, and that's sort of why older people have bad memory, is because they have less non-REM sleep. And the reason why they get less non-REM sleep is due to mid-frontal brain deterioration that they sort of get when they get older. Next is alcohol. Alcohol is a sedative, depressant, and downer. So it's not what people think, where you sort of drink alcohol to get lit. Like, how does it actually liven you up? why you sort of go crazy is because alcohol sedates the prefrontal cortex, which helps you control impulses and retains your behavior. As a result, as the prefrontal cortex is sort of numbed and sedated, you would loosen up, have less control, and be more extroverted. And alcohol sedates you out of wakefulness, but does not induce natural sleep. So when you get tired and get sleepy due to alcohol, you're actually getting unnatural fake sleep. It's undetected sleep that is broken through a lot of undetected sleep disruptions. Hence, you feel exhausted the next day after drinking because you didn't get any proper sleep. And alcohol is one of the most powerful suppressors of REM sleep. If you routinely drink, your REM sleep will just sort of build up because as you don't get REM sleep, that sort of need for your body to get REM sleep just sort of builds up over time. And this pressure could get so high that you start dreaming while you're wide awake, because REM sleep is sort of dreaming. So you start hallucinating, getting into delusions, being disoriented while you're awake. So that's why alcohol is not good if you do it routinely. And then alcohol on learning new things. They did this test where day 1, during the morning, they learned something new. That night, they went ahead and went drinking. And then from day 2 to 7, they did 0 drinking. And by day 7, they lost 50% of their original knowledge. Whereas people that didn't drink at all, they still had quite decent memory retention. But what was surprising is the people who went ahead and learned something new from day 1 to 2, they did 0 drinking. So they had 2 nights of solid sleep to sort of lock in what they learned. They went ahead and drank on day 3. And then day 4 to 7, they did no drinking whatsoever. And by day 7, they lost 40% of their original knowledge, which is insane. Who would have thought that sort of drinking 3 days after you learned something can actually deteriorate and lead to memory loss of that knowledge due to getting less quality sleep. So basically, you need more than 3 nights of good sleep to lock in new things that you've learned. Technically, you can actually drink in the morning so that the alcohol will be out of your system after 8 hours, and by the time it's nighttime, you could get normal sleep. So the reason why alcohol is bad is not because it's sort of unhealthy or something. Obviously, it's bad for your liver and stuff, but the biggest issue is that it ruins your sleep. And when it ruins your sleep, that leads to memory issues, tired issues, hangovers, etc. That's sort of the main issue. So if you drink alcohol in the morning and it's out of your system by nighttime, that's a way to sort of drink alcohol and not be affected by it. Next is sleeping pills. So sleeping pills don't improve sleep for the average person, that is. You don't want to use sleeping pills as they actually induce a similar effect of alcohol. As you use them, you become more and more dependent on them. And when you stop using them, there's a massive withdrawal symptoms such as insomnia, which makes it very hard to sleep. Because the moment you stop, you can't seem to fall asleep without it. And as a result, you get in this bad cycle that every time you try to stop, you cannot sleep, so you need to continue taking it. By not getting natural sleep, you're actually not getting that immune boost that natural sleep offers, and as a result, your immune system is much more weaker, you're more prone to infections. As a result, there's a higher mortality rate with people who take sleeping pills. Check out this chart. People who take certain doses per year have a much higher hazard ratio of mortality, of dying. And then also there's a higher rate of car crashes with people who take sleeping pills. And this is most likely because of the non-restorative sleep induced by sleeping pills from the night before. Because when you wake up, you don't feel refreshed when you're on sleeping pills because you're not getting natural sleep. Now, performance. This is sort of where things get very juicy. We're going to talk about how sleep can actually help you with your performance. The saying, practice makes perfect, it should actually be practice with sleep makes perfect. All top athletes sleep 10 plus hours, like LeBron James, Kobe, they sleep 11, 12 hours. Usain Bolt sleeps 11, 12 hours. Roger Federer, they sleep insanely long hours. They do a 10-hour sleep, 2-hour naps, and sleep is very important because sleep helps and builds and strengthens your motor skills. Motor memories during sleep get shifted over the brain circuits that operate below the level of consciousness and turn these skills into instinctual habits. So when you learn a certain skill throughout the day, it sort of becomes instinctual, but that occurs during sleep. That's why you notice that as you're doing things more and more, it gets worse and worse throughout the day. But when you sleep, the next morning you're amazing and you're somehow getting every single basketball shot, you're getting every single scale on the piano with ease the next day, because all the things you've learned gets shifted on your brain cell through sleep. And when you get less than 8 hours of sleep, there's a decrease by 10 to 30% of physical exhaustion, there's a decrease in aerobic output, limb extension force, vertical jump height, sustained muscle strength. Like if you get less sleep, your performance physically is just way worse. So before competition, you definitely want to get as much sleep as possible. Furthermore, there's more issues such as marked impairments to your cardiovascular, which is movements of blood cells that carries nutrients and oxygens around your body. There's impairments to your metabolic and respiratory capabilities, reduction in the amount of air that your lung can expire, the ability for your body to cool itself during physical exertion. Like sleep has a huge effect on your performance. Furthermore, there's this part of your brain called the amygdala. Let's get the pronunciation.
Amygdala.
Amygdala. Totally butchered that. I was completely off.
Amygdala.
So the amygdala, hope I'm getting it right. So there's a part in your brain called the amygdala, and this is a hotspot for triggering emotions such as rage or anger. So this is sort of linked to the fight or flight part of your body. There's a 60% amplification in emotional reactivity for those who are sleep deprived. So when you're more emotional, you take more riskier actions when you're sleep deprived, and this leads to a lot of emotional swings, even suicidal thoughts. So when you get less sleep, you're gonna make more bad decisions, bad calls, especially if you're like a stock trader. That's gonna ruin your day just because you're more emotional, and you're more emotional because you get less sleep. And sleep does affect your mental health and has potential for therapeutic use. Alright, I'm back. So I just took a nap, and naps are super powerful. Very coincidental that we're talking about sleep, and I just took a nap, and we're talking about the power of sleep. I'm revitalized. I took a 30-minute power nap. We're back on track. Performance. There's a huge increased chance of sports injury when there's a lack of sleep. As you can see in the chart, when you have 9 hours of sleep, the chance of injury is only like 15%. 8 hours of sleep jumps all the way up to 35%. When you have 7 hours of sleep, it goes all the way up to 62%. And then when you have 6 hours of sleep, 73% chance of injury, which is insane. There's a huge increased chance of a car crash with the lack of sleep. Look at that. We have 6 to 7 hours of sleep, there's a 30% increase in chance of car crash. 5 to 6 hours, 90% increase. 4 to 5 hours, 400% chance of increase of a car crash. Pretty insane. REM sleep actually tunes your brain. Example, when you're sleep deprived, your ability to decode facial expressions is dampened, mistaking friends or foe. So ironically, roles such as soldiers, doctors, nurses, parents require accurate ability to read emotions. And these roles take on life-dependent decisions. And most of these occupations are sleep deprived. Soldiers are trained to sort of perform in low sleep. Doctors don't get much sleep. They get 16-hour long shifts. So are nurses. Parents don't get much sleep. And it's very ironic because the roles that you need the most sleep, most of the time have the least sleep. Next, symptoms of ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, are just like symptoms of lack of sleep. People with lack of sleep have less attention, they're more disordered, and they're sort of hyperactive, I guess. They're all over the place. So many people are being misdiagnosed for ADHD when they actually just have a lack of sleep. And an estimated of 50% of these diagnoses are wrong. And worst of all these incorrect diagnoses are getting prescribed with Adderall and Ritalin, which is a stimulant that keeps the brain wide awake, the opposite of what a sleep-deprived person needs. So they get diagnosed with ADHD when they're just sleep deprived, and they go ahead and get prescribed pills that keep them more wide awake, and it just sort of stuffs them up even more. You cannot develop sleep resilience. There's no such thing. Like, no matter how often you train yourself on 6 hours of sleep, you're not gonna adapt. You wanna ask your doctor how much sleep they have had before letting them perform surgery on you. Because if you have 22 hours of no sleep, you're basically drunk. Hence why limiting resident doctors to no more than 16 hours of sleep. Right now, a lot of nurses and doctors have shifts that are way longer, will reduce serious medical errors by 20%, and there'll be 400 to 600% less diagnostic errors. And big issues such as the Chernobyl nuclear power station meltdown and the Exxon Valdez oil tanker spilling 10 to 40 million gallons of crude oil is linked to the operators working horrendous hours with lack of sleep. Good sleep compounds. Having an extra 15 to 20 minutes of extra sleep daily will allow you to make much more money and have a much better life. Like, this stuff compounds. Just like compound interest, if you put an extra $5 away into your bank account every single day, it's going to compound. Having an extra 15 to 20 minutes of sleep every day would compound your whole life. Next, memory. Super important chapter. As I said previously, when you learn new things, the memory is stored in a limited short-term memory storage called the hippocampus. When you sleep, this short-term memory storage is transferred from the hippocampus over to a long-term memory storage bank called the cortex, just as shown in the image. Therefore, memory gets worse throughout the day as the hippocampus gets more and more full. So a tip is to get afternoon naps, just like I did, before 3 p.m. Students who had a 90-minute nap in the afternoon would get 20% memory advantage in tests over students that didn't. So every 20-minute nap can perform memory consolidation as long as it contains enough non-REM sleep, deep sleep. Therefore, sleep is an amazing save button when you learn new things. So after you watch this video, get some good night sleep tonight. And what you could do is, when you go to sleep, list out all the new things you've learned from most important to least important, and the brain will prioritize that list of memories that you want to save first. This is called targeted memory reactivation. Pretty powerful hack, right? I'm giving everything away in this PowerPoint. Also, tagging memories with sound. So for example, dog, cat, elephant, tiger, mouse. Now if tiger roars and cat meows are played throughout the night, you'll remember the tiger and cat over the dog, elephant, and mouse. So you could tag memories with sound, play it throughout the night, and you'll remember those facts. Hence, playing affirmations throughout your sleep can be very powerful. Next, sleep can actually help remove unneeded memories. Things you consciously don't think about or consciously choose to remove, it will not be moved over to the cortex, which is the long memory storage. The brain auto removes any information that you don't want remember, for example, trauma, accidents, etc. Furthermore, the last 2 hours of your sleep is the most important, 5 to 7 a.m., given that you slept at 11 p.m. This provides a richer spindle burst of brain activity, which is linked to offline memory boost. When you're sleep deprived, the hippocampus shuts off and bounces off any new memories, leading to less memory retention. Things that are learned when sleep deprived fade away much faster. And the second and third night of good sleep actually strengthen the memories that were learned 2 to 3 days ago. So that's why sleep is so important. That's why you're gonna sleep good every single day, because all these benefits are just gonna come for free. So to lock things that you have learned, you have to get sleep within 24 hours. Next, REM sleep plays an active role in grammar and learning new languages. Underslept brain is a leaky memory sieve in no state to receive, observe, or retain an education. So it's ironic how like a lot of students chuck all-nighters before exams, they don't sleep much, they sleep late, they have to get up early for school. It's a recipe for disaster for students. Next, we're gonna talk about health. Sleep reduces the chance of cardiac arrest. The less sleep you get, the increased heart rate and blood pressure happens. And this is shown during daylight saving. So this is showing you the charts of what happens every single year. From 2012 to 2017, we saw an increase in heart attacks on the Monday after daylight saving. And then on the other daylight saving, where they go ahead and give you an hour of sleep, there's a 49.5% decrease in heart attacks. Pretty crazy, right? So basically, research shows that switching to daylight saving time and losing 1 hour of sleep raise the risk of a heart attack by 80% compared to other Sunday to Monday transitions throughout the year. And this also occurs in car accidents. As you can see, during the spring shift, before daylight saving, there's a small amount of car crashes, and it jumps immediately right after. And it's still pretty high as people are trying to get used to that less sleep. Next, when they increase and gain an extra hour of sleep, the car crash actually dipped immediately right after, and then it rose back up. And I think that's due to the inability to adapt to that new time zone. Next, Men that have little to poor sleep have 29% less sperm count compared to those who have full and restful nights of sleep. Furthermore, the sperm themselves have more deformities. And lastly, beauty sleep is true. Sleep makes you more healthy and good looking. Like, I've noticed that the more sleep I get, the less pimples I get, the more I glow. Everything's just much more better with sleep. Alarms. When you're woken up by an alarm, you actually suffer a spike in blood pressure and a shock acceleration in heart rate. That's the fight or flight branch of the nervous system when it shocks you awake. So when you're hitting the snooze button, you're repeatedly inflicting this cardiovascular assault again and again and again in a short span of time. So if this happens 5 times a week, all year round, this isn't healthy. Who would have knew heart attacks are actually dangerous? Sickness, very important chapter. So sleep actually boosts your immune cells. Those sleeping less than 5 hours have an increased infection rate of 50%. So sleep helps fight off flus and disease. So right now it is February 2020, coronavirus is a thing, so get a lot of sleep. That's going to help you not get that disease. Adults sleeping an average of 6.7 hours a night would be predicted to live, live only into the early 60s. So sleep will actually save you a lot of money from medical treatments. The less sleep you are, the more sensitive you are to pain. Next is cancer. During a cancer test with mice, this was definitely not too ethical or nice. Mice that were sleep restricted, there was a 200% increase in the speed and size of the cancer growth. Man, sleep is just so powerful. Can you see this? Like, I don't know how long we're in now, but man, sleep, there's so many benefits and you spend 1/3 of your day doing it. You really want to optimize it. Let's check my sleep score from yesterday on my Oura Ring. Whoa, 79. Oh, that's a high score for me. I think it's because I spent 9 hours in bed. The sleep was very, very high. I did not expect it. I usually struggle with my sleep. So the BedJet version 2, it's definitely helping. It doesn't help me get deep sleep, but I get a lot of REM sleep. So I've repositioned the BedJet this morning to see if I put it on the side, if it'll perform better. So I'll give that a try. And then I'm going to also buy some cloud sheets to see if that can help me increase my deep sleep, because the BedJet helps me get a lot of REM sleep, but not enough deep sleep. But wow, got like 8 hours of sleep of 9 hours. So I got an efficiency of 88%. So that's sort of my sleep score. But yeah, I preach what I teach. I've been struggling to get it better, but slowly getting better and better. I'm very happy for my sleep. Next, those who get less than 6 hours of sleep routinely have a 40% increased chance of cancer. Next, people who are sleep deprived. There's a boost in form of macrophages called M2 cells which promote cancers. When you're sleep deprived, it diminishes an alternate form of macrophages called M1 cells which help combat cancer. And when you're sleep deprived, it actually wobbles your DNA strip under and over expressing particular genes. And this can raise the risk of disease such as dementia, cancer, cardiovascular ill health, and immune dysfunction. Some genes not only diminish expression, but they shut down entirely. Gene transcriptomy, I think that's how you say it. Gene transcriptomy, your DNA readout, is the very essence of who you are and you. So if your DNA is not readable, that stuffs up you. Sleep on weight and fitness. Sleep increases glucose consumption, burning of fat. So the more you sleep, the more fat you're going to burn. When you're sleep deprived, your cell becomes less receptive to insulin. And insulin is a hormone made by the pancreas that allows your body to use sugar, which is glucose, from carbohydrates. So that means as you get less sleep, your body doesn't consume sugar and glucose, which is your fat. And the reason why it does this is because it wants to save and store up fat, because it feels that you're in a sort of fight or flight mode, being sort of sleep deprived. And there are two hormones controlling appetite. One is leptin, which is a sense of feeling full. Next is ghrelin, which is a sense of feeling hungry. When sleep deprived, there's an increased concentration of ghrelin, which is making you feel more hungry, and there's a decreased concentration of leptin, which makes you feel full. so you just feel more hungry as you get less sleep. And then the lack of sleep increases the level of circulating endocannabinoids, I think I got that right, which increases your desire to snack. This is very familiar to cannabis and sort of munchies. When you get less sleep, you actually get more of the urge to snack. Also, less sleep equals less energy. When sleep deprived, your body becomes stingy on giving up fat, as I mentioned earlier. Instead, your muscle mass is depleted. Now, mental recovery. Sleep dampens emotional experiences that recently occurred, waking up much more calm to as if you just sort of stayed awake. REM sleep is hypothesized to sort of heal emotional wounds. People who dream of painful recent experiences or past experiences gain clinical resolution recovering a year later. People who didn't dream of these painful experiences were still dragged down by the depression that remained. Dreaming about your painful experience allows you to sort of accept it and move forward. So when you get bad dreams, I actually embrace it because I know that I think my body and my mind is sort of accepting that fact, and I'm learning to sort of move forward from it. So PTSD is not allowing bad dreams to be transferred out of the hippocampus, which is a short-term memory storage, and replaying that dream every single night. REM sleep keeps people sane and normal. The term sleep on it is true. REM sleep dreaming leads to the best solution. Like, I woke up with so many solutions on my mind to all my problems, and I felt much more calm. You know, Edison and Mendeleev would use sleep to find creative solutions. So he would hold balls and he would go into REM sleep. And when you're REM sleep, you're paralyzed. And then after he got into REM sleep, he'll go into deep sleep where you're no longer paralyzed, you can sort of move, and the balls will drop and it'll cause them to wake up. And it'll come up with amazing solutions and ideas. During tests, participants that were woken up during REM sleep were able to solve 15 to 35% more puzzles. So lingering vapors of REM sleep provide a more fluid, divergent, open-minded state of information processing. And the dream algorithm cherry picks salient fragments of prior learning experiences and attempts to place a new problem within the back catalog of pre-existing knowledge. Man, like this PowerPoint, I'm very proud of like how much knowledge and golden nuggets I filled into here. I basically cut all the fat and gave you guys the essence of all the golden nuggets you need about sleep, and that's why you gotta hit the subscribe button and like this video. I put so much effort into this. I had to take a nap to finish off this video, and like I was surprised I just sort of chose to give this away completely for free on YouTube, and I didn't sort of save this for my private students or just save this for myself, because I just want to give you guys high quality content every single day. Next, performance and productivity increases after a short 60 to 90 minute nap. That's exactly why I took a nap. I have much more energy now. And solutions to problems are often also found. Studies across 4 large US companies found that insufficient sleep costs almost $2,000 per employee per year in loss of productivity. Employees, when sleep deprived, become less ethical, they're more volatile, they're more willing to blame others and take credit, they're more willing to sort of cut corners and get to the deadline at a much sort of unethical rate or unethical path. Employees that sleep more earn more. Students that slept more got a higher IQ and grades, and schools with later start times that didn't make their students sort of wake up early and get to school early had a higher average SAT score. Aetna's CEO Mark Bertolini set up a system that string together 27 hours night of sleep or more in a row, received $25 per night bonus. Matthew Walker, the author of the book that I've gotten all this knowledge from, recommended creating a sleep credit score for your employees. A combination of sleep amount times the night-to-night sleep continuity. And the reason why he says that is because it's much better to be consistent rather than sort of batching a bunch of sleep over a period of 3 to 4 days to sort of get credit, but it's useless if you're trying to catch up on sleep. Having continuity is much better than having, a holiday period where you just sort of binge sleep for 2 weeks. And then you want to offer options between financial bonuses such as $25 per night or extra vacation days, because many individuals value time off much more. And that's sort of why I allow all my sort of employees, my virtual assistants, to work in their own time. All my interns, I get them to start coming to my office around 11 a.m. I don't get them to sort of come here by 8 a.m. like I do. And that sort of increases productivity. You want to offer employees 2 start times, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. or 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. So it's still 8 hours, And if they come earlier, they finish earlier. They come late, they finish late. And this will give both night and morning hours their most optimal working time. And this also allows employees to leave before and after peak traffic, which is at 5 p.m. Very big hack. And then what health insurance should do is they should use sleep trackers for their customers and decrease the premium upon increased sleep. So patients that sort of slept more, they would get a decrease in premium and they'll pay less, which means the company theoretically will make less money, but the reduced amount of medical costs will save them millions. Even if 50% of people try to sort of hack and trick the system, the 50% of people that do, they're going to claim medical expenses much less, and this is going to save them millions. Now, sleep tips. This is sort of what you guys have been waiting for. I already do have a 12 tips to improve your sleep video somewhere up here, but here's some extra tips that I didn't mention. So your bedside lamp actually affects your sleep. It suppresses melatonin, thinking that it's daytime when you have it on. And a small lamp or bulb is much more powerful than you think. So what you want to do is you want to buy a smart bulb that you can control the color, or a red light bulb, because red light stimulates sort of sunset. So here are the two options, very cheap. Either buy a smart bulb for like $20, or get these red sort of light bulbs for like $9. And this is all in AUD, so it's cheaper in USD. Next tip is don't use anything with blue light 60 minutes before sleep. iPads, phones, laptops, TVs, etc. Using a blue light rich electronic 2 hours prior to bed blocks the rising levels of melatonin by 23%. iPad reading leads to less sleep quality. And then what happens is the next day, there's a 90-minute lag in rising melatonin, which is a digital hangover effect, making it harder to sleep the next day, repeating this sort of vicious cycle. So don't use iPads to read. And then if you want, get a Kindle. Kindles are very good and they don't really affect your sleeping. Next is temperature. Temperature plays a huge role, so make sure to keep your room cool. Most of your body's thermic work is performed at your hands, feet, and head. That's sort of why when you sleep, your hands are usually above your blanket, your head is usually above the blanket, because you need to keep those places cool. Hence, at the middle of the night, children's hands and legs end up dangling off the bed and blankets because they want to cool themselves down. Next, having a warm shower before sleep. After having a warm shower, you get red because those dilated blood vessels on the surface quickly help radiate out inner heat to cool down your core temperature, leading you to fall asleep much quicker as your core is cooler. And this can induce 10 to 15% more non-REM sleep, which is deep sleep, in healthy adults. Last few tips. Days you exercise, you'll actually get better sleep. Also, better sleep means better exercise the next day. And that's sort of why athletes sleep a lot during huge competition days. And then you want to eat less sugars and carbs, as it leads to less non-REM sleep and more awakening at night. Prevent eating sugars and carbs. But yeah, that's today's video. That was 47 slides, a lot of jam-packed golden nuggets. It's just like, you notice that this 47 slides is just sort of not filled with filler. It's 47 slides of condensed golden nuggets that I just sort of put together in this video, so you guys don't have to spend several hours to go through the book and filter out all the fat and get all these golden nuggets. Like, man, I don't know if anyone's providing this high level of content on YouTube, and I'm very proud of this PowerPoint I made for you guys. So that's about it for today's video. Question of the day: how many hours of sleep do you get on average every single day? I on average get roughly 8 to 8.5 hours of sleep every single day. Maybe 8 hours and 15 minutes, I reckon. Let's check actually. Wow, so far as of February, it's been 11 days. My average bedtime is 8 hours and a half. Last month it was 8 hours. Before it was 8, like, here's the chart. But yeah, I get a lot of sleep, and I've been able to say that there've been a huge productivity. Like, I've been able to output so much work using the power of sleep. But yeah, that's today's video. All I ask, like this video, hit the subscribe button. You don't know how long it took to film and put together this video. It's been so tiring. I've had to sleep a lot to put this together. But yeah, hope you guys have an amazing day and week. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be seeing you guys tomorrow with much more value.